G'day everybody, here we are today, Farmer Wade for Billboard Battalion, and we're today coming to you from, would you believe, Collins Street in Melbourne. We're right in the middle of the city. We're only a few hundred metres from Parliament House, which is in Spring Street here, the Victorian State Parliament House, and we're actually right in front of the offices of the Victorian Farmers Federation. So we're doing a video here with regard to where the Victorian Farmers Federation is at right now, and we've come to this location and spot because last year we did a meeting here, which was actually a protest against the Victorian Farmers Federation. That was back on the 5th of August, 2023 actually. So when we were here last time, we had, and I believe would be one of the first ever protests against the Victorian Farmers Federation by farmers, for the simple fact that their policies are actually horrendous and were in fact selling out our farmers. And as people would know, I've been a part of the Victorian Farmers Federation a number of years ago, where I tried to get the actual VFF to fight for our farmers, for our family farmers, and to keep our farmers and our food production in business. Because what we're dealing with is we are dealing, with government policy that is actually in the business of shutting down our agricultural sector and our family farmers, and I can personally vouch for this, as many of the policies that government were bringing in and the Victorian Farmers Federation basically were just simply rubber stamping, are destroying our farmers. There's a lot of stuff that's happened then, and we've seen our farmers going broke, being sent bankrupt. We even had a lot of people a while ago, a few years ago, were being faced with bankruptcy, and in fact had groups and organisations going around, telling them, you're not viable anymore, you need to get out, sell the place, you can't make any money, you won't be able to survive. So this was absolutely shocking. So the reason we did the protest back here on the 5th of August 2023 was to say the Victorian Farmers Federation needs to fight. It needs to stop just being some lapdog of the government and selling out our farmers, and actually have a crack. This was under the leadership of Emma Germano, and if you can call it the leadership, I think her so-called leadership was disgusting, it was pathetic, and was just selling out the VFF. I would also say that under the so-called presidency of David Johinke, Peter Toohey, and some of the others before that, was equally as shocking and abhorrent and terrible. These are my opinions, and people are free to make their own mind up. But what we saw under Emma Germano was basically, my thoughts are that the VFF was basically in free fall and going to crash. It was on the way over the cliff, and was not looking good. So a lot of the things that I'm talking about today, now I've been pushing as a branch member, as a branch executive member in the VFF, and standing for the presidency in 2016, the actual state presidency. A lot of the things that we're talking about now, I've been pushing since I was a member. Since I was a member, and so this is very interesting times now, because we've just had elections only a few weeks ago, where we've seen a new president be elected, and this is Brett Hosking. Now, Brett Hosking was president of the Grains branch of the VFF. He's also in a lot of other things, but he's a family farmer, most importantly a family cropping farmer. So we spoke to Brett Hosking only last Wednesday. So today is the today is the 18th of Feb 2025, and we spoke with Brett Hosking at a VFF meeting only 6 days ago. So it was very interesting when we went to the VFF meeting there as Billboard Battalion, because we've given things a lot of stick, but justifiable, constructive criticism and correct, righteous criticism that is really backed in fact and evidence. So it was very interesting to see the new president, Brett Hosking, when he made his speech, was quite interested in talking about some of the other groups that formed up. And anyway, Brett said a little bit about how long we've known each other and the fact that Billboard Battalion has been formed as an advocacy group, that I also formed up Southern Basin Communities in 2019 to fight for our water, because the VFF was selling us out. The VFF Water Council in particular was an absolute disaster, a disgrace, and what they did was shocking, absolutely terrible. So it was interesting. The VFF meeting we attended at St Arnaud here in Victoria had some new elements. So as I said, Brett Hosking's speech was, I thought, very good. And you know what we took away from that was some great positives. In part, you know, Brett spoke about how the VFF can't do everything on its own. He said they're going to turn this organisation around and do things a lot different to how it's been done in the past. But also the fact that, you know, there are other smaller groups around that, you know, were needed and need to keep doing what they're doing. And one of the organisations that Brett spoke about was Billboard Battalion. As I said, I've known Brett for, I think, 2015 or something like that. So it's good to see that our what I've called so-called farmer representative lobby groups are actually starting to recognise that other groups are in the battle and representing our farmers and our ag, and they're apparently happy to maybe work with some of us. You know what I mean? So I think this is very positive steps, and I think this is very positive for agriculture in Victoria and for our family farmers. So I just wanted to talk about a few of the things that, you know, came up the other night that, you know, we've been pushing for a long time. You know, we do have a lot of concern from members with regard to the fire levies, you know, the fire levy charges, and how they're changing all that around, how people are going to, it's going to cost them a fortune to have, you know, pay the fire levy. The hike in rates, shire rates and charges is out of control. So as I've said for a long time, there's a reason for that, and it is not good. So, you know, we talk about the World Economic Forum, the overall big picture grand plan to wipe out our farmers. Our shire councils are on board with the Agenda 21. This is what we're talking about. And now we're starting to see a few of our farmers go, oh, hang on, this is not good, and this is going to make it very tough for us. And I'm putting it to you, that is the idea. That is the plan. That's the whole purpose. That's why they're doing it, is to make it not only so tough, but that you can't survive, that your farming business cannot survive. That is the plan. So some of the other issues that came up the other night were also about the ESG. So the environmental and social and governance plan that everybody is going to have to conform to. They also spoke about carbon accounting. I talked about the so-called climate change and the fraud that is. It is a fraud. It is a weapon to be used against not only just our farmers, but our industries, businesses and communities too. That's what it's about. The digital ID is another disaster. And there was a bit of discussion starting to happen around these issues, which is what we've been talking about for a long, long time. Now our farmers are starting to ask questions, our serious farmers, and they're saying, well, this interest rate stuff, if you want to buy a piece of machinery, for example, your banks now are starting to look at your interest rate might depend on your carbon scores or what you're doing in order to get to net zero, in order to reduce your carbon in your farming. Now, I'm here to tell you for a start that reducing carbon coming from your farms is disastrous. We need carbon to grow crops, to grow food. It's as simple as that. This whole thing about getting to net zero carbon is a catastrophe. It is fraud, it is liars. Any of the scientists, bureaucrats, politicians that tell you we need to get net zero should be jailed, because they're trying to destroy our ability to grow food, quite literally. That's the purpose of it. But there was a lot of people who are starting to wake up to this. Some of the things that they were talking about were what hoops you're going to have to start jumping through to get bank finance, to get finance for your farm, to be able to trade, to sell your produce into marketplaces. This is great news as far as I'm concerned, because we're starting now to see mainstream farmers go, listen, we're not interested in your woke crap anymore. This is starting to affect our business. And then we get on to the carbon accounting. Now, this is catastrophic. The carbon accounting is a massive impost on our farm businesses, which I guarantee you, it does not matter how big you are. If you're running a 5 million hectare station in up the north growing cattle, if you're running one of the biggest dairies in Victoria, you could be milking 1,000 cows, and that's getting up there. You could be milking 1,500. You are not going to be able to comply. You're not going to be able to do enough. And that's the plan. That's what this is for. So it's great to see that some of our farmers are now asking the question of which Billboard Battalion has been pushing ever since day one, from what I've been pushing ever since day one. And when I tried to get the Victorian Farmers Federation to deal with this, they just basically, I'm not going to use the word I possibly could, but canned what I was saying, tried to drum up opposition to what I was saying, and make out that I was some sort of nutter, some sort of crackpot, conspiracy theorist, and all the rest of it. So it's really good to see now. I think this is the first time we're seeing a state farmer representative body kicking into gear and actually speaking out and having a go. And it appears to be happy to perhaps come on board with what Billboard Battalion is all about, and come up to speed with those issues. So I'd just say that when we were there the other night, there was talk about mining. Now, in 2016, I debated David Johinke on ABC radio with Danny Greenlay about the contest that we were having for the presidency of the Victorian Farmers Federation. And one of the things that I was saying back then was that a major issue is going to be mining on farmland. So this is turning out to be a major issue. There's stuff that I was talking about back then about how Victoria has had the studies done. We've got certain areas where there's gold, there's certain areas where there's iron ore, and other areas which is basically west of the Kerrang to Bendigo line that is mineral sands. So now we're starting to see a lot of this mining from here right through to the South Australian border. And I also would say that, they put in what is supposedly, at the time, stock and domestic water supplies for farmers west of this area, of Bendigo, of Echuca, that way. But I said at the time, these are simply water supplies for mining operations. This was in 2015, 2016. I was ridiculed. You know, they tried to make out you're crazy and the rest of it. However, now we're seeing farmers talk about their concern over the water from these so-called stock and domestic pipelines being having competition against mining operations for this water. So I think it's fair to say we are certainly ahead of the game, well and truly ahead of the game, based on nothing more than common sense, knowledge and investigation. And from a perspective of 40 years of understanding the overall big picture plan, what was planned, what's going to happen, who's going to be doing it and why. So if you have that knowledge, then you can pretty well predict exactly what's going to happen. And I think we've been 100% on point, spot on, since 1985 odd. So therefore, our farmers are being wiped out. That is being done deliberately. So therefore, at the end of the day, it's great to see the VFF turn around and say, well, they're going to have a bit of a go and actually fight for our farmers, because they're seeing these things now that are very, very serious, and they're becoming reality, just like I said they would. And that's why we have Billboard Battalion. That's why we had Southern Basin Communities. And that's why when I was a VFF branch president, I was also on the VFF Water Council. I was saying what I was saying and ruffled so many feathers, because much of the hierarchy were nothing more than lapdogs for the politicians. So, and I think if we look at a lot of the past presidents who have gone on to become politicians, my opinion is that they, in these roles, have to prove that they will sell out their members, they will help to destroy their members to get the approval to become some sort of a party candidate, and generally speaking, that's National Party and Liberal Party. So I think that you know, we've got some pretty interesting things happening here. I think that if people, and we might put this interview, this debate that we did with myself and David Johinke in 2016. I think it was 16th of June 2016 on ABC Radio, which probably disappeared now because the ABC don't seem to like me much anymore. I used to do a lot of interviews on ABC Radio. I ran into Warwick Long from Victoria, who does the country hour up at a protest in Canberra late last year. Warwick Long didn't want to talk to me, didn't want to know about anything, because I call out the ABC now for the shocking things that they're doing and the way they're covering up and helping to destroy our farmers. And this is exactly what the ABC is doing. Open absolutely to do any interviews with ABC about this stuff, no worries at all. So just going back to the debate with Johinke in 2016, you know, I said at the time, if you vote for David Johinke and he gets the job in the VFF, you're going to get more of the same. And it turned out to be exactly what happened. We didn't see the VFF fight. They sold out more farmers, and I told people that was what's going to happen. And now David Johinke is actually the president of the National Farmers Federation, which I'm also having a red hot go at, because all they're interested in, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, is selling out more farmers, bringing in garbage policies, pushing the net zero, pushing climate change, all the rest of that crap, renewable energy disaster, and that's a catastrophic disaster, and all that sort of thing. So I did say in that debate, you know, I know people who are running state-of-the-art operations who are being sent broke by government policy, and that's the whole purpose. And that's turned out to be correct, 100%. I talked about mining on farmland as a big concern in 2016. That's now, from here to South Australia, that's a big problem. So one of the big issues that's really of concern to farming now is this renewable energy. That is absolute crap. It's fraudulent. It is a disaster. And once again, it's all part of the big picture. The renewable energy whole scene is nothing but a con. It is a lie. It, for a start, cannot deliver what it says it's going to. Cannot deliver the baseload power. It is going to see our our electricity supplies collapse. They cannot possibly deliver what they're saying. They're blowing up our coal-fired power stations, and they're using these things as the excuses to put so-called renewable infrastructure all over our farmland. So, if this comes to fruition, the whole plan of renewable, unreliable, disastrous energy, then that footprint will affect 70% of Victoria's farmland. These are government reports. This is what the government is telling us, not what we're making up or anything else. This is government information. So I think that we've got some interesting times. I think under the presidency of Peter Toohey, David Johinke, Emma Germano, we'll go right back to the times of Paul Weller, Peter Walsh, Andrew Broad. The whole thing was a disaster. They didn't fight for farmers. That's my opinion, and I'll stand by that. I'll defend that. And if they want to debate that issue or what have you, then I'm more than happy to do that. So I think that we're seeing some fairly positive things now from the leadership group of the VFF, and I think we may have an organisation that we could actually become proud of. So anyway, we just wanted to do that to say here is the contradiction to what we did back in August 23, and now we're in February 2025, and I think we're going to see something a bit different. It's very encouraging. I'm very happy with what's happened, and maybe Victorian agriculture may be in with a chance to actually survive, but there's a long way to go. We've got the overall big picture plans attacking us, but maybe we're going to see something happen. We will work with Brett and the VFF leadership team. Quite happy to do that. So I think we have some positive news for a change in our agricultural lobbying. So we might just call it quits at that. There's a lot going to happen in this space. But I must say that we get around Australia. We are now dealing with farmers in Victoria, in New South Wales, in Queensland, in South Australia and Western Australia. So we're starting to turn some of our farmers around and educate them, which is what our role is, what we're trying to do, on what's happening to our farming, what's happening to them, who's doing it, and why it's occurring. So at the end of the day, I'd like to just say thanks very much to everybody for watching. Now, we've had to do this as a video and upload it. We'll upload it as soon as we can, because here in the middle of Melbourne, would you believe, only a few hundred metres from Parliament House, we can't get enough internet for this to run. Can you believe it? We can't do a live because there's not enough internet here in the centre of Melbourne at virtually Parliament House, the capital of the state, to run this live. So therefore, we've had to do it at that. And I'll just finish by saying, here's our one of our stickers that we sell. Here's one of the stickers, which is our motto: the greatest threat to our farmers are our governments, and those are the facts. The governments are working for the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and the WHO, and they are in the business of trying to destroy our farmers, our farm businesses, and our food supply, and our country. So this is why we do it. All right, Wade Northhausen here from VFF head office in Collins Street, Melbourne. We'll sign off now, and thanks very much to everybody for watching, and we'll get back to you very, very soon. We've got other things that we need to do in Melbourne today and into tonight. So